He beat his wife, lied to the cops, and tried to get me thrown out of my home. He thought his connections made him untouchable, but he had no idea I'd bury a living curse in his backyard, one he'll never escape. If you've ever been pushed too far by someone who thinks they can get away with anything, this story is for you. Hit that like button, subscribe, and comment "Justice served" if you've ever wanted karma to show up with a sledgehammer. Let's get into it. 10 years ago, I lived next door to a man who could rot in hell, and I'd still think he got off easy. From the outside, his life looked polished. Well-maintained house, local job at the mortuary, polite nods to the neighbors. But behind those walls, it was a house of horror. I'm not talking vague suspicions either. I'm talking bone-chilling, middle-of-the-night screams, sounds of glass breaking, thuds human, thuds against furniture. Not some run-down duplex either. We're talking standalone suburban homes, with full yards between them. That's how loud it was. I was military back then, EMT too, which meant I knew the difference between a scream for attention and a scream for help. I called the police more than once, but nothing ever came of it. At first, my girlfriend and I just assumed things were being taken care of. Then, one day, we ran into his wife. She was out in her yard, fumbling with a trash bag. Her sleeve slipped up, bruises, not a few, deep, yellowing, fingerprint-shaped ones. When I asked if she was okay, she smiled too quickly and said she tripped. But her eyes, they said something else entirely. A few weeks later, she knocked on our door. Late, she was shaking. She had a cut down her leg that looked fresh and mean. I sat her down in the kitchen while my girlfriend grabbed my trauma bag. That cut came from him throwing her through a glass coffee table. "No more hiding it," she cried, while I cleaned the wound. Said he was a mortician. Said he knew all the local cops and had friends on the force. Said she'd tried to report him once, and the case mysteriously vanished, so we made her a deal. Anytime she needed out heaven for just one night, our couch was hers. No questions asked. And for a while, that's how it was. Quiet, too quiet, until he found out. One day, I opened my front door to a sheriff's deputy holding a restraining order against me. Apparently, I'd threatened my neighbor with a firearm. Funny thing, I had sold my pistol a month before the date of the alleged incident. And not just to anyone, to a cop. My girlfriend at the time had a friend who was a social worker dating that officer. I gave him a call, explained everything about the wife, the false report, and how I hadn't even owned a gun during the alleged threat. He asked for a favor. A few days later, he shows up at the neighbor's place, holding a printed photo of my old gun next to a ruler, like it was evidence. This, the gun. Neighbor. Yep, this happened on date. Neighbor. Absolutely. My cop friend just smirks, because what the neighbor didn't know was that, on that exact date, that gun was in an evidence locker under the cop's name-perfect chain of custody. The cop served my neighbor with a citation for filing a false police report, and the restraining order, torn up, gone. I should have felt relief, but what I felt was rage. Not long after, I was outside loading my car. My military discharge had just come through. I was packing up to move back east. He walks out into his driveway, just stares at me. "You think this is over," he says, with a smile that makes your skin crawl. And in that moment, I realized something. This guy didn't care about being caught, about being wrong, because in his mind, he was always protected. So I decided to give him something his friends couldn't erase. Few days before my move, I stopped at a garden center, picked up a single stalk of bamboo. If you know anything about bamboo, you know it's not just a plant, it's a curse in root form. It spreads fast, buries deep, and once it's in your soil, it's yours for life. That night, under the cover of dark, I cut that bamboo into 4-inch shoots and quietly hopped the fence into his backyard with a rubber mallet. I didn't dump it all in one spot. Oh no, I scattered it. Random holes, dozens of tiny graves, each one planted like a secret. He wouldn't notice right away. He'd mow weed, think everything was fine, but give it a year or two, his pristine backyard would turn into a war zone of shoots and roots. And bamboo, it doesn't die easy. You can cut it, burn it, dig it, it comes back. He wanted to uproot me from my home with lies. I gave him something he'll never uproot, but I wasn't done. That same week, I drove his wife to a women's shelter, 4 towns over, set her up with resources, contacts, a new phone. That was her clean slate. His was a backyard he'd spend the rest of his life trying to kill. Some people deserve public consequences, jail time, trials, but some people, they deserve something quieter, more poetic, more permanent. He tried to turn the system on me. He thought his status, his connections, his lies could bury the truth. Instead, I buried something else, and to this day, every time I think of that backyard, sprouting with chaos, I smile. Because real revenge, sometimes it's not loud, sometimes ... it grows. If you think this guy got exactly what he deserved, hit that like button. Drop a comment if you've ever dreamed of a revenge this poetic. And subscribe for more stories where karma isn't just delivered, it's handcrafted.